Yeah, I know. I overreact when I feel good. But I can't help it, man. So I'm going to say this. The horse stance is the best exercise I have tried to address all of the lower body issues that I have. It's a bold statement. I realize that. I'm crapping on every other thing that I've come across. I realize that. I don't mean disrespect to any other exercise, but I think this thing makes me feel like butter through the hips, ankles, knees, lumbar spine. All of that feels freaking amazing, man. I would have to do 3 or 4 different movements to get the same type of smoothness that I feel just simply by doing horse stance. And I think there's a few reasons for that. It hits the quads, which somehow does something to my hip pain. So it must mean that it is related to the proximal tendon of one of the heads of the quads. I think that's kind of what explains that. It also hits the adductors in a very, very long state. So it's strengthening the adductors in the longest range of motion possible. And in order for that to happen, the opposite side of the adductors, the abductors, also have to fire in order for that to happen. And so what's happening is the glutes are turning on in order for the adductors to stay along. Now, the adductors have to stay on and not just simply sit there in a stretched position because, well, we're in a squat. And the adductors have to fire in order for us to contribute to that hip extension. As we know, hip extension is also a movement facilitated by the adductors. I know, it's really weird, right? Everyone thinks it's the glutes, but in a deep hole, in a deep ATG squat, the glutes are not in a favorable leveraged position in order to act upon the joint. And so what we see is that the adductors actually do most of the hip extension in the bottom of the squat. And so what we know is that as you go through the range of motion of a squat, different muscles come on for the same damn movement, hip extension. Right, we know the glutes are a big part of it, but they need to be in a particular angle of the hip in order for them to have the leverage to act upon it. And so the quads are working because we're in a half squat. The adductors and glutes are pairing up together to make the knees stay out wide and also be in a squat position. So the 3-headed monster, quads, adductors, and glutes are all working. To top this all off, as I'm holding the horse stance, my anterior pelvic tilt is restoring. I literally feel my anterior pelvic tilt being restored while I'm in this position. So my tendency to be locked into that anterior pelvic tilt is actually making the horse stance harder. And so I literally feel slowly over time my pelvis rotate posteriorly in order for me to stay longer in the horse stance. Now, that to me is bloody unbelievable that one movement can do all of this. And when I couple all those thoughts with the idea of I'm shit at wide, squats, sumos, all of that crap, I just feel like my hips are going to pop off. So maybe there's a reason why that is. And maybe the reason, that's the same reason that I have an anterior pelvic tilt, I suck at wide, and maybe that's the reason why I also struggle in the 90-degree knee angle, hip angle, all of that stuff. It's all related. And this horse stance is simply doing all of this, and to top it all off, it's cheap as shit. I can do this every damn day. Every damn day. I have not been sore once. My hips feel like butter. I'm walking out of the gym and I feel like I have more hip extension available to me. So walking is easier, right? Because when you're locked into an anterior pelvic tilt, you have this short gait. You know, you can't stick that hip through and have a longer stride because you're short. And so walking is even easier. I mean, this is some crazy stuff, man. Like literally everything's being addressed. So today, it was supposed to be a leg day, like my quad day. And I thought, yeah, sure, I can jump on the hack squat. I can jump on blah, 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 blah. But I don't want to avoid this. So let me just overdose the hell on horse stance. And so I did that. I did like 7 sets, supersetted with the sumos. And the reason why I did sumos was because I was like, okay, horse stance and sumos are like cousins. that's the cousins, man. One is basically the same as the other. It's the same starting position. So I'm like, why don't I load it and see if I can feel a little bit better through the sumos? So it felt great. It felt really, really great. I still feel like I don't have the strength. My horse stance is in a novice stage, and my sumo position is also in a novice stage. And so as soon as the weight started getting up there, like that 220 deadlift, looked like it was a freaking wide stance conventional. It was still a hip hinge because I can't open up my hips enough. But I suspect, I theorize that as my horse stance starts to go up and up and up, my sumo theoretically should be better and better, and I should be able to get into my hips a little bit more and stay more upright and use the stance, the sumo stance, as a push, not a pull, right? Because all of my deadlifts, I just have this tendency to just want to pull. Well, the sumo, you're supposed to be pushing. And when you start pulling, you might as well freaking put your legs closer and do the conventional deadlift. So it was an exploration day today. Did lots and lots of sets of horse stance. I ended up the session with, after all that work, man, I ended up doing an AMRAP as long as I could possibly hold. I ended up doing 90 seconds on the horse stance, which is pretty good, man. I'll still won't forget the first time I did horse stance a few days ago, man. That felt horrible, man. Absolutely horrible. But now I'm kind of getting a little bit better at it. Now, the benefits don't end there. This is why I'm overreacting, and I hope that I'm not overreacting. I did overhead squat as well. And that felt really, really good as well. So as you know, overhead squat is much easier if you can open up your hips and allow that torso to go up and down. If you're in a narrow stance, you're going to go, if your knees collapse, you're going to go into a hip hinge, you're going to collapse your chest, and it's impossible to do an overhead squat that way. So, you see the flow here, man? Do you see the flow? So the horse stance opens everything up, and all of a sudden I started doing really well in the overhead squat. I ended up going up to 80 kilo overhead squat. I didn't get it. I felt hella unstable, really, really unstable, but I was able to get 70 kilo squat well. So I'm going to try and do more and more overhead squats. It just fits so well with what I'm trying to do with my hips. And it's such a functional freaking thing, man. The whole body gets rolled up into this one exercise. So the overhead squat, man, it's like a horse stance plus. So you're doing a horse stance with overhead squat, but then the upper body, man, the mid back, the shoulders, the traps, all of that is just absolutely brilliant of an exercise. I absolutely love the overhead squat. And I was kind of angry that the other day where I planned to come in and do it, I completely forgot about it. And so it's been on my mind that, when I have the opportunity, I'll do it. And today, coming off a night shift, I just drove to this gym and I was like, I'll do this. And I did it. I still, I could do it at home and stuff. I've got the crash mats, but I don't know. Like, I feel like I need to be careful with the overhead squats because I don't know if you guys remember. I think the overhead squats contributed to my elbow pain back in the day. So I still kind of have like hesitancies with it a little bit. But during that period, I was doing, I don't know if you guys can remember, I was doing lots of front squats, lots of close grip benching, lots of overhead squats. And a lot of that is, wrist. And I think the elbow or the forearm flexors started getting upset. But I think now that I'm doing wide bench press, I think all of that is going to be addressed. But I'll keep an eye on it, make sure that it's all right. But in that overhead position, like the wrists cock back a little bit, and it's a really stretched out position. And not that I felt pain today, but I remember it feeling crappy when I did that. So horse stance every day. At various, I'm not going to do 7 sets every single day. Today was a focus to do that. But I think every day, as soon as I come in, I think horse stance for 1 or 2 minutes, 1 or 2 sets, open up the hips and they go into a squat or a deadlift or bent over rows or bench, whatever I'm doing, just before squats. It just opens me up so well. I want to say all these words to say this is freaking amazing and it's the best, but I have done this in the past and I'm very, very well aware that, I'm so freaking passionate about this shit. This is the trouble. Like, if I feel like this is it, I'm not going to come on here and be like, hey guys, yeah, blah, blah. Nah, man, this is the shit. And I'm really feeling like this is the shit. I really, like, if you've got crappy squat mobility and whatnot, dude, like, you have to do this. You have to do this. If you've ever listened to me about anything else, man, you have to try this. It just feels amazing. If you're a hingy squatter, you got to do this, man. It's a non-negotiable in my mind. You have to do this. But I will warn you that your squatting will suffer. Like, you will feel weaker. It does really fatigue the hell out of me. So today 180 felt heavy, man. It really felt heavy. But then again, I did damn 7 sets of this stuff. So 7 minutes in a horse stand. That's a lot. So I don't think it's going to be like lunges. Like, when I do lunges, I feel like they warm me up really well, but they don't take a lot from me from the top set of squats. So that's kind of really nice with lunges. Or when I say lunges, I'm talking about anything split stance, you know, front full elevated, Bulgarians. All of that kind of warms me up as well. Not as well, warms me up, but it doesn't take a lot off my top set in the squats. The horse stance, they really do. It really does. And I suspect it's got something to do with lumbar pelvic stability. So when I do horse stands, it opens me right up and it makes everything long. And as you know, like, strength is about being tight and short in some of these positions. And so if you open your pelvis up, it's going to be much harder for you to basically stabilize a heavy weight. So this is where, like, mobility training can interfere with some strength training. But if you don't have the mobility to access your top strength in a really good, position from a physics point of view, then, might as well work on mobility for a while until you're able to access that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, for me, man, like, after all this time of struggling with hip pain, going back and forth, this year has been absolutely wonderful, and I've been in love. I've definitely loved the progress of this year. Absolutely, it's been amazing. I'm very happy. But as the time passes on, I'm getting more and more intimate with what actually is the driver for me feeling well. This year, quads have been on the map. I've been smashing them, feeling good. And now I've found a freaking exercise that encompasses not just the quad work, but also, like, the previous ideas of me thinking that it's the glute work as well. So now I'm doing glute work and duct work. Like, it's all rolled into one. And this is the part of the discussion where I get so excited. I'm like, damn, dude, this is all of it. All of it. It's all of it. Last night, it's so freaking crazy. Last night, I think one of you guys also said it. I went on and I started watching sumo wrestlers, man. Those guys, man. The dude's like 1 billion kilos, man. And he's got this, like, humongously impressive sumo stance. His legs are like, damn. He's doing splits, basically. The dude is doing splits with his hips. And it looks unbelievable. And I'm like, how is a guy that size able to do that? It's just breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. And, those guys are strong. I don't know if I could find somewhere, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I want to see what those sumo wrestlers are actually able to lift with a barbell. Obviously, they are big people, and obviously, they are going to be very strong. Like, 200 kilo, he's going to be squatting 200 kilos like it's nothing. But I just want to see, like, has there ever been a guy who's done sumo? Number one, do they even train with weights? Like, what do they do? I know they do the sumo stance. The horse stance is like their bread and butter. That's like their breathing. But do they do weights? Or do they just eat, and wrestle, and do those crazy freaking one leg up, then down, the other leg up and down sumo horse stance? I don't know, like, do they call it horse stance? I doubt they call it horse stance. But those guys are just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I don't know how healthy they are, their diet and all of that, but those sumo guys, man. I'm going to try and do some research tonight about it, actually. I'll try and work out a program. I'll try and see a program for sumo wrestlers. How often do they train? I know they eat a lot, so that's kind of most of their day, just stuffing their face with food. But is there a way? Is there a training? I don't know. It's not very popular in the West, I guess. Appreciate you guys like always. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.